Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very, very, very special bonus edition of the Wulong Talks podcast. My name is Jason. Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well. And tonight we're being joined by, as I said, a very, very, very special guest. First of all, though, let's welcome back the rustling kid, Rich Kid, who's rustling away on the microphone as he usually does. Rich, say what's
Yeah,
up.
that's not even me. That's Jeff. But yeah, what's up, man?
Well, Jeff is the so we'll blame you because you're the whipping boy. And yes, of course, as Rich just let you know, we've got a very special guest here. We've got none other than Jeff from as far as I'm concerned, the best damn kung fu movie podcast on the internet right now. Jeff from the Kung Fu Driving podcast. Jeff, what's up, man? Welcome.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for having me. And listen, this isn't this isn't about me being a guest. Okay, I am as much a fan of you guys as you say you are of me. That has yet to be seen. but um, but um, but yeah, it's great to finally be able to talk to you guys. I know we've followed each other on Twitter and Instagram, and like I said, you guys put on a great show. It's always good to hear pop culture and kung fu talk from across the pond. So I'm so pumped to be on the show with you guys.
For sure, man, for sure. And as said, the feeling is very much mutual. For listeners that don't know, as said, Jeff runs a podcast called the Kung Fu Drive-In Podcast. And if you have even just a passing resemblance or interest in martial arts, check it out. It's really awesome. But Jeff, we'll get into it to all the details about your podcast and all of that in a mo. But Rich, did you want to dive straight in with some questions and stuff for Jeff?
I mean, we can. I mean, that's basically introductions done. And everything. Listen, I'm fangirling. I'm still fangirling, man. So I'm all over the place. My emotions are running high. I feel like Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire. So yeah. I mean, Jeff. I mean, just tell us a bit about yourself and what made you get into kung fu, where this love came and this love and passion came from. Let's start from there.
Sure. I mean, like most people who get into kung fu movies, right? It's just something that I grew up with and just developed a real passion for. And it's not like I'm the most knowledgeable kung fu movie expert on the planet. I'm not by any stretch a kung fu movie expert at all. I will say that without any reservation at all. I grew up in an era where the kung fu movie was king. You know, this was the 70s and 80s. I'm much older than you guys, but the era that I grew up in was heavily influenced by kung fu film. There were songs about kung fu. Kung fu movies were on TV. There were kung fu cartoons and things like that. So it was just something that was very much a part of my childhood, and it was something that for kids like me growing up in the 70s and the 80s was an escape. Every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock in the New York City metro area, that was our kung fu theater time. And then as we grew up, there were more opportunities to see more classic kung fu movies on different channels. So it was really an integral part of my growing up as a kid of that era. So you know, when people were talking about their heroes growing up, my heroes were these guys in silk pajamas and slippers on screen, you know, the small screen, but because I wasn't watching many movies at the time, as far as I can remember. But every Saturday afternoon, I could count on being whisked away to China, ancient China, and hanging out with guys who knew how to handle their swords and their nunchucks and staffs, and they could fly through the air and they could do all kinds of animal styles, which to me was amazing. And I've said it before, like when I was a kid, these guys were superheroes, and they were superheroes that, you know, because I'm a Filipino, because I'm Asian, they looked like me, and it was something that I could identify with. And I was so pumped that the kids that I was growing up with at the time too were all kind of enjoying this with me, and we kind of had heroes to look up to. And even the kids that weren't Asian were all trying to be part of this kung fu culture. And for a while there, man, that was just amazing for us. And then it kind of grew up, and we all grew up, and we all changed, and we all got married, and we all got jobs, and the love of kung fu just never left. So one day I was kind of just sitting around watching I was watching Five Deadly Venoms on the computer, and a commercial for Into the Badlands came on TV, which was running in the background, and I was kind of beside myself. I was thinking, oh my god, I'm watching kung fu. There's kung fu on TV. It's amazing that still is going on without kind of the pervasiveness that it was during the 70s. But then it kind of clicked. I was like, well, maybe there are still some fans out there that kind of want to talk about the glory days. So one thing led to another, and I turned on the microphone and I started talking, and nobody told me to stop. So here I am.
Cool. And we're glad you haven't stopped, man. Keep going, keep doing it, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
amazing, man. I mean, sorry, Rich. I was just going to say. I mean, it's amazing how much kung fu cinema has kind of infiltrated almost everything about popular culture. I mean, it's in video games, it's in books, it's in movies, it's in television shows, as you said, animation. You could even argue that there's some parts of that traditional kind of Chinese dress that was often worn in those movies has influenced certain parts of fashion and things like that today as well. So it's just, it's been incredible the way that the culture is strived and survived for so long, really, for so many years, But sorry, Rich, go ahead. Oh, sorry, James.
Oh, no. Carry on. Don't stop.
Go ahead, guys. You go ahead, guys.
Yeah. Richie?
Okay, cool. No, because literally, I was just thinking about like what made you get into this, because obviously it's the same thing, for here. Like me and Jason will tell you that we remember speaking to like our elders, and they would say the same thing, where like they would be watching kung fu flicks in the cinema, like in our local West End, where they'll do like double bills of like Shaolin Temple and things like that, and it almost feels like it's like a traditional thing where our elders got to a certain age and we got to a certain age, to sit us down and be like, listen, come and sit down and watch this film, and you're going to see a guy with no top on, and skinny black pants and slippers just kicking ass. And it's just one of those things that I just remember, just like it was almost like, my dad making me sit down and watch these films. I'm not having an interest in it, but then until I really saw like, like the tradition, and it's weird because I'm trying to find words to describe it, because like I said, you can be Caribbean, you can be African, you can be whatever, but people always seem to be drawn to the, to martial arts. And I remember when I did take up martial arts years later, I think one of the things that my teacher said is that the reason why people love martial arts or anything, I mean, not necessarily just have to be anything physical, but the minute you learn a martial art, it doesn't matter what color, what religion you are. You learn your style and you be the best you can be. And I just always find that fascinating about how that relates to everybody and anybody. And the same thing, you've got like amazing female martial artists as well. I mean, which I still don't think are getting like a big enough, platform to show their prowess right now. But that's something we could talk about later on, if anything. But I mean, Jason, what was your earliest kung fu memory, if you can remember?
It's funny that you said that your elders, sat you down. By the way, I am one of your elders, but but for me, my dad was a big kung fu movie fan when I was coming up. So the earliest kung fu movie star that I knew about was someone that he liked to watch, and his name is T Long. I'm sure you guys know who that guy is, but T Long and David Chang, and I think the movie was Blood Brothers. I can't remember for sure, but that was one of the first kung fu movie stars that I remember going, oh, I got to pay attention to this because this is unreal. This is amazing stuff. And then from there, it again carrying over into the Saturday afternoon stuff. I remember watching a bunch of things, but one of the first movies that kind of clicked with me was Five Deadly Venoms. Blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. And it's still one of those movies that if it's ever on, doesn't matter what I'm doing, I'm going to stop and watch it.
Yeah. Okay. Jason, what was your earliest kung fu memory? Do you remember?
The earliest memories kind of are all kind of based around, I guess, my parents. I didn't really get to see a lot of kung fu in the cinema at an early age, because at the time that I was growing up would have been sort of, the very late 70s and the early 80s. That was sort of the birth of home cinema, and that was when the VCR started to become accessible to people. So there was a lot of stuff coming out on home video, and people were able to access it that way. But it definitely was my parents, and in particular my mum, who was a big fan of martial arts movies. And interestingly, with martial arts movies as well, as in Grenada, where my parents are from, up until very, very recently, they used to do like a double header at the cinemas in Grenada. And it's how my mum kind of got into martial arts movies. Was when she was young, they would take their Saturday evening in town in Grenada was to go and watch a kung fu flick, and to go and watch a double header movie. And it's kind of how she fell in love with Bruce Lee as well, because the first film she remembers seeing of Bruce Lee was The Big Boss, and she said, immediately she was just kind of like, yeah, like this is my guy now, So we got like a steady diet of Bruce Lee, but then kind of got introduced into some of the other stars as well. And one of the movies that always kind of sticks out in my head, I'm not 100% sure why, but I always have a strong memory of it, is the Executioners of Shaolin. Something you covered on your podcast, Jeff, and we kind of spoke about a little bit. It's one of the movies that she absolutely adores, and I adore it as well. And I watched it, very recently. It's on Netflix, and I still love it. It still gives me the same kind of goosebump feelings, and the characters in it are fantastic. The actors are in it fantastic. So yeah, my earliest sort of memories go back to that kind of period, really, and growing up in a household where, kung fu was part of the Saturday night entertainment, and so it's kind of grown from there, really.
That's cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, because I just remember. I mean, the other memory I have of being a kid is watching. I'm not sure if it ever came to your shores, Jeff, but Jason, you remember Monkey Magic?
Oh yeah.
So yes. So Monkey Magic, it's basically a TV show based on the book Journey to the West.
Oh yeah.
So Sun Wukong. So it's I mean, it is cheesy as hell, but that's actually the first time I remember watching or seeing some form of martial arts. And take into account when you watch it, there's not even that much martial arts in it. It's just people jumping around. It's very, very theatrical. But then my first kung fu film that I remember watching was what's it called? Daggers 8. That's the first film I remember watching. I'm going like, these people are mean, like, and that was it. But I don't remember getting. But it wasn't until years later when my dad sat me down and said, watch this and everything. But I mean, let's move on to the next question. So obviously we've all seen a fair amount of martial arts films. We've seen from all the way from the 70s all the way to now, and it's had its highs and it's had its lows. What martial arts would you like to see explored in cinema right now? Because I mean, we've had like the Wing Chun with it, man. We've had that the Wing Chun era. We've had the Thai boxing era. With we've had like the Slat era with Raid, with the Raid being released a couple of years ago. What do you think would be good to be seen on screen that you think hasn't had its due or nobody knows about that you think it's about?
Yeah. And much credit to all of those countries that brought their specific martial arts to the screen, because they did an amazing job with it. Tony Jaa is unbelievable with the work that he does, and Iko Uwais in the Raid, it was completely something new to the screen, and it completely blew that martial art wide open for everybody. But for me personally, and I just had on a guest recently on my show to talk about this, but I'm Filipino, and there is a whole Filipino martial arts system that you actually have seen on screen and probably didn't know that it was Filipino martial arts. For everybody who knows it, it's just categorized as FMA, and it encompasses Arnis, Eskrima, and Kali. And all of that is stick fighting and knife fighting and open hand fighting, but it's a style that you've seen used throughout Hollywood. And because they use it in a lot of close quarters fighting. Jason Bourne uses it all the time. It's been used in other films. Anytime that you see two guys really up close and fighting with knives or sticks or grabbing something nearby and just kind of using that as a weapon, chances are they're using some form of Filipino martial arts to kind of get that movement down. So something that I've been looking for personally is for someone to champion Filipino martial arts on screen, because I think that would be, the Philippines' contribution to the action cinema world, to stand alongside Salat and Thai kickboxing, and it's obviously dynamic. It's very cool when it's represented well on screen. When Jason Bourne's using it, people ooh and ah, and very rarely is it recognized as the martial art that it is. And, most people probably will not know that it's a Filipino martial arts. The actors and the fight choreographers and the action directors will know what it is, and they'll appreciate it. But it would be nice to have it come out and stand on its own legs and be the next cool martial art out there. I don't know that it'll happen. I don't know if we have that ambassador yet for the big screen, but I think that would be cool.
Okay, no, that's really, really interesting, because because I'm a big fan of the Bourne films as well. I think like they did amazing work, like pushing out like the hand-to-hand combat. But the guy obviously who did the Bourne choreography is a guy called Jeffrey Amada. Jeff Amada, and obviously, and I think he trained under Danny Inosanto.
Yeah, he
did. Then Danny Inosanto trained under Bruce Lee, and then it was Bruce Lee that did all the Cali work. Yes. And I love that feeling of watching that. I love watching a martial arts film, and seeing the familiar choreography and the beats where you can just put on a film and be like, oh, Sammo Hung, he did choreography for that. I just love that. But I definitely agree with you about the whole thing of it. Sometimes it feels like a martial art needs an ambassador, and I do hear you where you say that there's a screamer fighting in Cali, and it somehow it just hasn't found that right person to really, really push it. I mean, if I had to choose a martial art off the top of my head, I would go to one it's quite big here, but not as big as it was about maybe 6-7 years ago when I did it for about a year, and that's capoeira.
Oh, beautiful martial art.
Yeah, like a beautiful martial art. And that's the thing, like that's the first thing that you said, and that's the first thing I said when I saw it. I was like, well, before I took it up, I was like, yeah, it just looks beautiful. And then you go and do a class, and then you do like a million squats, and then you have to learn how to stand on your hands, and it's like, fuck looking beautiful. I want to crack someone's skull open, man, because I'm angry right now.
Have you seen Lateef Crowder do his stuff?
Listen, I'm a big fan of his, man. Follow him on Instagram. And I mean, he's not the best of actors, but what he can do with his body, it's just like Jesus Christ.
He's built like a truck, and he moves amazingly. It's amazing though, just to watch him do his thing. And that's that whole style that with the whole history of that, trying to cover it up as a dance. It's just got such a cool history. And then when you see it, and you see it used it was used in Boyka.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked devastating the way that he used it.
Well, I don't know if you remember. I mean, this is going back years ago. A film called Only the Strong?
Only the Strong.
With Mark Dacascos. Yeah. Yes. Well, Mark Dacascos on his Twitter recently actually went back, and he hasn't released anything as of yet, but he was like putting little teasers out saying he's back in the capoeira gym, and he's going to come out with something different, and he's going to bring some new blood with him. So I'm really hoping that he's going to come with some capoeira stuff, because I think he's a martial artist that didn't really get the props he deserved, as far as I'm concerned. I think he got a bum deal in Hollywood, to be honest.
He's just kind of been pushed to the wayside for whatever reason, and I mean he's absolutely earned it as a martial artist. I've actually been trying to get him on my show, but so far no luck.
Listen, we're going to pray to the Kung Fu gods for you, man. I'm telling you.
It's funny because I've had on people that he's worked with very closely. He worked with Gabriella Wright on The Way, which is a web series on the Studio Plus app. And the guy that I just recently had on, Sonny Sison, the action director from the Philippines, worked with him for Showdown in Manila, and he's working with him for a couple other things. But Mark's kind of he doesn't kind of need to get out there and push projects now. He's kind of looking to do things that mean something to him, which I totally get and totally respect. But I'm gonna keep fighting to get him, man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do it. Yeah. Jay, what about you? If there's a martial art that you'd like to see, put out there and educate the masses, what would you choose?
Well, this is going to be completely unoriginal, but I'm just going to echo the three of you. But honestly, when I saw the question, I mean, it was the first thing that kind of popped into my head. And again, for all the reasons that both of you have given, I really don't have anything to add beyond that, other than, yeah, it is a beautiful art. The history of it is phenomenal and fascinating. And, I think that truly would present something that people have never, ever seen before, in any kind of shape or form. So, yeah, no, they vote free for Capoeira for me as well.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay. All right. Okay. If you had to study any martial art, what would you study and why?
All right. Am I going first here?
Anybody. This is free for all, man. This is like Mortal Kombat. Okay. It's a Royal Rumble.
Okay. Now, Rich, you actually do study martial arts, right?
I haven't studied in well over a year, but I've studied a fair few in my short young adult life. So, okay. Yeah.
So I took Taekwondo when I was very young. This was okay. I'm talking about 30-something odd years ago.
Yeah.
I took it for about a week. That's about the extent of it. And as much as I love martial arts movies, I did nothing in terms of actually learning martial arts beyond that week of Taekwondo. And the extent of my martial arts training had been, dressing up in a ninja outfit and jumping off my bed. That's about it. Now, but I'm 46 now, and what I'm doing now, and this will be, I guess it'll be an exclusive for you guys, is I am going to be taking martial arts very soon, actually, and I'm going to be recording the entire process, and I'm going to be chronicling the entire thing on YouTube or on Instagram or wherever it is. So you'll all be able to follow along as I either learn something that has been an important part of my life to this point, or wind up in the hospital and in traction. So
nice.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting journey. But the martial arts that I will be studying will actually incorporate a little bit of Filipino martial arts in it as part of a kind of hybrid system, where I'll be learning some Kempo, some Jiu-Jitsu, some a little bit of Kung Fu, and the Filipino martial arts part of it will be Eskrima. So. I'll be getting a taste of everything that has contributed to what makes my podcast mine. So it'll be fun.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, nice. Yeah, listen, I can't wait to see that, man. Definitely can't wait to see that. Last summer I tore my Achilles. So I haven't done any form of training. So I'm looking to get back into something this year.
And I really wouldn't mind. Me.
Oh no! You know what? I tore my Achilles playing the fool. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Not just how you broke your Achilles.
Okay. All right. Okay. To anybody out there who doesn't know, if I haven't mentioned it on the other podcasts, I was doing one of those ninja assault courses, right? Okay. Now, don't start laughing. Now, hold on. Yeah. No. Now, basically, I did the ninja assault course. And I won my race. I beat the person I was racing against. That's cool. Like, if you go into my Instagram, I've actually got the race recorded, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I had like a hand injury from months before, so I only had about 2 weeks to train for it. And then literally, so did the race, completed that, and just ended up messing about with my friends afterwards. And we were just, running, doing one of the ramp, to run up the ramp and jump onto the hook or whatever. And I just made the mistake of running up at the wrong angle. And as I slid down, my foot was at a funny angle, and I ended up my foot bent in a particular place, and I tore my Achilles. And I walked around with a torn Achilles for about 48 hours before going to the hospital and going, listen, it doesn't seem to be getting any smaller. And they were like, yeah, because your Achilles is torn, man. And they were like, aren't you hurting? I was like, no, I just can't run anywhere. Like, it doesn't hurt. I just can't run. yeah, so I was bedbound for like 3 months, and that drove me crazy. And then so I've just been doing rehab for the past, well, during this past winter, and just hoping to go back to some form of martial arts this year. I really wouldn't mind going back to capoeira,
Cool.
but if there is one that I would like to try, and I know a couple of teachers in the UK with them, and I'd like to try this because it's something completely different to what I've done before. I'd like to try Tai Chi. Just because it's such a, I mean, don't get me wrong, people think it's just, it's for mind and well-being and stuff like that, but it also is a pretty much a dangerous art when it's used in the right way with the right amount of physical force. But I'd like to use it, or would like to learn the soft energy side of it, just because, I mean, you get to that certain age, and sometimes you think to yourself, well, I'm not as fast as I used to be, I'm not as strong as I used to be. Let me see what this can do for me, alongside everything else that I do know. So I'd like to do it just because it's something completely different to what I've done before, whether it be kicking, kneeing, elbowing, headbutting, biting, gouging, all of that stuff. Yeah. I sound like a maniac. So yeah. So I mean, like, Jay, what about you, Jay? I mean, anything you'd like to study?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Tai Chi, really. I mean, it's something that's been on my to-do list for about 3 years now, and I haven't actually got around to properly doing it. I've had, a couple of introduction classes and taste classes, but never really kind of committed to it. But it's definitely something that I want to commit to over the next 12 months, just because of, I guess, the many benefits that you get, mentally and spiritually as well as physically from it. And as Rich said, we're kind of getting to an age where it's like, okay, we need to start kind of looking after ourselves a bit and, making sure everything is flowing in the right place. So yeah, Tai Chi is definitely something I would love to do. I mean, many years ago, I used to do Wushu Quan, and like that was cool. It was fun. I had a really great teacher. But I realized after like a couple of months that I don't like getting hit. So it was, what? Like, I'm not cut out for this. I mean, I could appreciate what everybody does, with the art form. But for me, no, I don't like getting hit. I start like wanting to fight dirty and stuff. So it's just, maybe I need to find something that's going to actually, teach me to control and control the emotions and, to keep a better lid on things. So yeah, Tai Chi for me, for sure. That's definitely going to be on my to-do list for the year. But Jeff, man, good luck with your journey for sure. And we'll definitely make sure we follow that as well, because that's
I'm just hoping not to end up making a fool of myself or ending up in the hospital. So that's going to be my goal, just to kind of survive and hopefully learn something. I'm not adverse to pushing myself to learn something, but like you guys have been saying, I'm not young anymore, so I can't think that I'm going to be movie star quality within a couple of years. But I'm hoping just to get myself active and involved in, like I was saying, something that I probably should have done a long time ago, but as having been a fan of martial arts movies for so long, I figure I should probably try and learn
it. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I mean, getting hit is the best part for me anyway. That's I don't know, like I said, maybe I'm a bit crazy, but I think getting hit is the best part, because when you stop getting hit, it's not because they stop hitting you, it's just because you get better. So that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say to you. That's one piece of advice I'd give you. Nice. Second piece of advice is that any injuries you do get, or if like, forget the whole thing of like thinking of making yourself look like a fool. I remember like one of my martial arts teachers, and we had basically had our own little gym, and hopefully when we come onto your show, I'll tell you some stories about this teacher. He was a crazy guy, the best person ever, but crazy. He was like a short Asian version. When I say Asian, when we say Asian in the UK, we mean as in like Indian. So like he was like a short Indian version of Al Pacino, but the toughest man I knew. I'm not joking. He made us do some crazy shit. And basically we used to get some people that used to, because it was held in like a youth club, and we'd get some people that would come over and watch us train and everything. And there was one Friday when a bunch of kids from around the way, we knew them. They were mutual friends, but they never trained with us. And they were laughing at one of the guys that got knocked out in a sparring session. And so my teacher told his right hand man, listen, lock the gym door and get these guys in a fucking ring. And I've never seen like guys. I mean, I've seen no tell a lie. I have seen grown men cry before on numerous occasions. But I've never seen people beg for mercy like this. And he was like, no, listen, get the gloves, man. Take off. He was being deadly serious. Like, take off your fucking t-shirt. Take off your top. Get your trainers off. Come on, no, you're gonna step in the ring. If you don't do it, I'm going to strip you. Which one do you want? Do you want everyone to see me strip you, or do you want to strip yourself? And he made them strip down to like, their jeans, and took the trainers off and their t-shirt and everything. And he put gloves on them and everything. And just as he rang the bell and he went, no, you're not going to fight. And he goes, listen, you see how scared you are? That's how it feels for everybody to jump into this ring and to spar. And on my team, I mean, like everybody thinks that when you do anything, a lot of people out there think when you do things physical, especially now that you have like social media, they never see the build up to it. They just see like, let's say maybe like the first picture and then the last picture, and and like maybe I did this in 7 weeks. So our class, we had like tall people, short people, fat people, skinny people, old people. We had like grandfathers coming to our class just because they wanted to keep fit. And he was like, it takes a lot of courage to even come and train, let alone step into the ring. And you want to come in here and disrespect anybody. You ever do that again, and next time I won't even put you in the ring to fight. I'll just take you into the ring and I'll just put hands on you. And so basically what I'm trying to say is that whole thing of like, hopefully don't make a fool of yourself. Just go and do you, man. Don't even watch anybody. Go out there and break something. If you don't break something or get a bruise, you're not doing it right. I'm being serious. So that's the best piece of advice I can give you, man. So yeah, take that with you.
Cool, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
That's cool. Okay, we're all fans of martial arts here. Once again, this goes out to anybody who wants to go first. Which martial arts film would you remake?
One of the ones that I would want to see remade, and when I say that, I'm not even sure that I want to because it means so much to me. Would be Five Deadly Venoms. Again, it's one of those movies that was really formative for me as a kid growing up, with some Hollywood money and some Hollywood stars. I think it would be cool to see it remade. And then again, I'm not sure that I want my classic touch. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So I'm of two minds of it. I would like to see it remade because I know there are some cool stars out there that I think could bring something really awesome to it. I did a mock-up of a poster that I would like to see with some people that I think would do a really good job. I would like to see Michael Jai White as Toad. I think that would be incredible. But throw Scott Adkins in there, throw Iko Uwais and Tony Jaa in there too, and why not?
Yeah.
And then see what they bring to the whole story. But the Five Deadly Venoms will always be those five that I grew up with. Lu Feng and Lo Mang and those guys. So I'm of two minds, but that would be the one that if Hollywood would take a flyer on bringing a classic kung fu film to Hollywood, that would be the one that I would like to see.
Okay.
Good choice.
Jason? Yeah, definitely good choice.
For me, I'm kind of with Jeff in that I don't. There's certain films that I hold dear to my heart that I just don't want Hollywood to have anything to do with. But I think for me, the movie that I would most like to see remade is probably Police Assassins.
Ooh.
AKA Yes, Madam.
Yeah.
I think because for me, the concept of it is pretty cool. For an action movie, it makes sense that you'd have these people following this criminal underworld and these drug dealers. There's crooked CIA agents in there. You throw in an American agent. You throw in a Chinese agent up against these crooked CIA agents and the sort of criminal underworld of the triads and things like that. And I think it would be awesome. And it's a movie that I do love, but I do think has a lot of potential for much more. And in particular because obviously the two stars of the movie are female, which is something that we really don't get quite enough of within the martial arts genre. And because kung fu movie should be a place where it can be anybody can be the star, because it's about your practice of the art, how you display it, and how you can kind of sell what you're doing on the screen. I think it would be awesome, and especially now that you've had movies like Atomic Blonde come out in the cinema, and you had what was the movie with Scarlett Johansson, Lucy. You had Lucy come out, a couple of years ago, and both of those were reasonably successful at the box office as well. So I think there's definitely an appetite for that. And then Wonder Woman, obviously, is a big example of that. So people do want to go and see movies with action movies with females in the lead, with women in the lead. So for me, that's definitely the movie that you could remake and I think would be a success. So yeah, Police Assassins for me.
Okay. So the one that I thought of, I'd like to see it remade, but much like yourself, Jeff, and your favorite, I don't think I would like to see it remade because it's a classic, and just because I don't think it actually could be done justice, and I think it couldn't be done justice because it's just so hard. It's the type of film that you look at it, and we look at it as like a film, and then other people look at it as like, just like a kung fu flick. It's not a real film. It's just a film where people just fight in it. But we obviously, us who are educated, I know Jason doesn't like me using that term, us who are educated, no different.
Right.
But for me, I would choose Drunken Master.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of like you see interviews with with Jackie Chan, and he always talks about his influences being Buster Keaton and and anybody physical, and I just think that film alone, I mean, he's done some amazing work after that, so things like Police Story 1 and 2 and and everything else, everything else during the 80s and the early 90s. Right. But Drunken Master, I would just like to see that done because it was just the right blend of comedy, a good kung fu story, as standard as it is, where it's like kid goes to learn with this person and this teacher gets killed and he's going to go and fight, and then obviously just the different blends of the martial arts under the influence of alcohol. But then Jackie Chan has always gone on record as saying like he's not a firm advocate of alcohol, sure. which I've always found weird. And I'm just like, okay, cool. So that's a film I'd like to see touched, just because it's just a perfect film. And I think people who actually don't like who are not fans of martial arts films, there should still be a certain amount of martial arts films that should be in their film categories that they should watch. So for example, you've got things like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You don't need to be a fan of martial arts to like that film. It's a beautiful story that just happens to have martial arts in it. And I look at something like Drunken Master, and even though it is the tale of like their folk hero Wong Fei, is it Wong Fei Hung?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wong Fei Hung. Like, even though it's a comedy version of a national hero, it's still a story that can be told. We people sit down and watch television programs about the Vikings, and they're furthest away from the Vikings as possible. So I don't see why not watching another film about another country's national hero should be any different. So I'd like to see that done, but only if it could be done better. I wouldn't even want it to be the same level as Drunken Master that done by Jackie Chan. It has to be like magic. And plus I want to see. I'd like to see Sam the Seed on screen again. I'd like to see a good version of him. He's just a drunken old bum. I like it. He makes me laugh, man. So yeah.
He's a great character.
Great choice. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, so the next question is, the question I put is top 3 martial arts films. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to choose 3. You can choose 1. You can choose more than 3. It's entirely up to you. But yeah. Put it out there and the reason why.
Yeah. So this is a tough question, I think, because martial arts in cinema has gone through so much evolution, right? The classic films of the 70s and 80s were one type of kung fu film. And then the stuff that came after that got so much more production value put into it, and a lot of wire work started to come into play, and there's more development of the characters in the story. and then the whole 80s and 90s action films that became what the you can't even call it a kung fu film genre anymore. Not really, anyway. The action film genre is a whole separate thing, right? You have guys like Jason Statham and even Keanu Reeves doing his thing. So so I don't know that I can name a top three if we were going across the whole spectrum of kung fu film. I'll say that if you asked me what I would throw into the a DVD player or a Blu-ray player or on my device now to watch a film that is important to me, Five Deadly Venoms always, 36 Chamber of Shaolin, because that movie was so huge for me as a kid, because all of a sudden there was a way to study this discipline that could get you to this level of being a Shaolin monk or a Shaolin kung fu master, which when I was a kid I didn't know that was a thing. I thought you kind of knew kung fu, and you had to go to the mountains of China to study it, and that kind of thing. So the 36 Chamber of Shaolin was kind of an eye opener for me. And then the other movie that is important to me for no other reason than that it was one of the ones that kind of stuck in my head and is always watchable is The Kid with the Golden Arm. Again, another Venom movie, but not necessarily a standout movie by any stretch, but it's one of those stories that that had characters that resonated with me for whatever reason and just kind of stuck. The Kid with the Golden Arm was one of the guys that I wanted to emulate whenever we were kind of play fighting. I wanted to be him, or I wanted to be the Sanda from the 36 Chamber, or I wanted to be the hybrid Venom from Five Deadly Venoms. So that's kind of how I approached this question. I was like, when I was a kid, who did I want to be whenever we played at Kung Fu Fighting? And it was one of those three movies that I drew from. And there, 36 Chamber is influential still. Wu-Tang, the Wu-Tang Clan. One of their albums is named after the movie, and there are drops from it throughout their work. So, that's such a small sample that I drew from, but for me, those would be the three that I would go to every time.
Okay.
Yeah, hey man, the good choices, man. Good choices. 36 Chamber of Shaolin, as you said, is just such a hugely influential film. It has crossed so many kind of boundaries in terms of the influence that it's had, as you said, on other artists and musicians and other Hong Kong action movies from that era as well. It's just an incredible film, and Gordon Liu, the star, is he's almost synonymous with that period of martial arts, and I think when a lot of people think of him, they probably think of the character he played in that movie as well. So yeah, no doubt, definitely, man, definitely good choices.
Jason?
For me, it would. There's probably only three movies that I can. This is hard because there's so many that I want to pick, but but there's probably only three that I can think of that I could probably watch anytime, anywhere, regardless of the setting, regardless of what's going on. I can put them on. First one I've mentioned already, Executioners of Shaolin, because of the kind of emotional attachment I have to that movie, and because of the memories it evokes for me.
I love that film. I wanted I wanted that training dummy forever.
Oh, so badly. The scene where he's kind of manipulating the chi and the marbles are falling around the body, just brilliant. Love that film so much. So yeah, I wanted one as well. Second would probably be Police Story, Jackie Chan. Police Story again is another movie I can just put on anywhere, anytime, doesn't matter what's going on. I just think it's a phenomenal movie. Phenomenal, like just from from an action point of view, from a martial arts point of view, from a storytelling point of view, from a character point of view. From the humor's brilliant, but it's also extremely serious when it needs to be, and you buy into the serious moments when they happen. And the fact that he damn near tried to kill himself making that movie as well. No, it's phenomenal. Police Story is phenomenal. So yeah, Police Story is definitely one of those as well. And the other one is a more recent one, and one that you've actually covered on your podcast already. And that is Iron Monkey. Iron Monkey movie. I love it so much. Again, it's as Richard was talking previously about sort of Chinese folk heroes and things like that. It features a couple of those, but the performances in that movie are terrific, man. The martial arts choreography from Yuen Wu Ping as well is just great. Really great. I mean, he generally always is, but in this film in particular, he really kind of, you could see they really pushed the boat out with the choreography and what they were aiming for to put on the screen. So yeah, Iron Monkey would probably be my third choice.
Okay. So my turn. I'm actually going to cheat, and I'm going to say that's what I'm saying myself to last. It's not a cheat per se, but what it is like. Well, I mean, first and foremost, you guys, your choices are brilliant, without a doubt. But I'm going to go for 3 out of the Lucky Stars. The Lucky Stars. There's like 7 films made by the Lucky Stars, and I think only 3 or 4 of them have Jackie, Samo and Yuen Bu in it. Yeah. But I would go for like Meals on Wheels, Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, and Dragons Forever, just because like those 3, like what, the story's not even that great, and the story's not even that great because I mean Jackie got kind of lazy. I mean, like his name is Jackie Chan, and in the show in the film he's called Jackie. It's like they were like, fuck it, we're just gonna make a film. We're not even gonna change our names, yeah. Like so already there, you're not getting any Oscar performances, but it's a pretty much standard story where just like police officers or like crooks doing whatever. But I just like the fact that you just get the best of 3 different worlds. So you've got kind of like the evolution of Jackie from traditional martial arts to almost like a mixed martial arts that he uses to fight. And then you've got Samo, who is like, as far as I'm concerned, everybody's human and we all come in different shapes and sizes, but he's never been the archetypical, fit looking person, but he's amazing at what he does. And his traditional style, his old school traditional style of using martial arts, it's perfect. I think it's even better than Jackie, to be honest. And then obviously you got Yuen Bu, who may not necessarily be like the best martial artist, but his acrobatic skills is just ridiculous. I think it's like amazing. I think he's actually better than Jackie. I just think he just never got a good deal. Jackie just did crazy shit. And like, and pushed himself to the edge. But anybody who doesn't know, I mean, when you watch Enter the Dragon, I think the person at the beginning, when you see Bruce Lee fighting a training against Sammo Hung, and all the Shaolin monks put their hands together and the person does a flip over the hands, that's Yuen Bu doing the flip. So I mean, and I mean, even there's a bit in Mills and Wills where they're fighting around the long dinner table, and he's telling the guy to come and fight him, and he's doing the flips into the chairs and everything. And I remember seeing an interview with the guy, and he basically said that the translator was saying to him that Ewan has basically said he wants you to try and chase him and hit him for real. And he was like, yeah, man, I've been doing like martial arts for years. And he goes, after the first take, he was out of breath, and he was like, this guy's not fucking human. So those are the 3 films that I would choose, just because they're just extensions of each other, really. It's like, hey, there's Jackie in this film, and he's Jackie in that film, and it's Samo in this film, and it's Samo in that film. So those are the 3 films that I would choose.
Nice.
Okay, we don't have that much time left. Okay, cool. Best martial arts fights, because that's what it all comes down to.
That's so tough. How do you even choose from all of the martial arts movies that are out there? So I do have to, I have to cheat a little bit with this one, because it's impossible. There just can't be one best, right? I'll tell you the ones that always kind of resonate, and I guess I'll put it this way: when when someone who doesn't watch martial arts films asks me, why I like them or why I watch them, um, and they say you just like the fighting. Isn't it all the same? I'll say no, it's not all the same. Let me show you
Mm.
why. So here are the fights that that I would point to where it's not at all the same. But and they may not be very well known fights, but um, in Crippled Avengers or The Return of the Five Deadly Venoms, the final fight scene in that one is an unreal mix of acrobatics and kung fu. And they're jumping through metal rings and they're working around each other. They're using each other as counterbalances and shields. And that fight, whenever I watch it, I have to stop and rewind just to see how they do what they do, because this is again a five Venoms Venomob movie. So these guys obviously knew each other, having grown up and trained with each other for years. So they just are so good at knowing where each other is and how they all move together that it looks like the most brilliant martial arts dance ever. And
Mm.
it's not necessarily a film that gets a ton of attention for people who do watch them. You know the Venom movies, and this is always kind of on that list somewhere. But that fight scene is always one that I go to. Another one is from Wheels on Meals with Jackie and Benny.
Yeah.
That fight scene is amazing. It's
Yeah.
Benny Urquidez was a top martial artist, and then you had Jackie Chan with his acrobatics, and the two of them together was not only entertaining but was just jaw dropping in terms of intensity and action, and they seem to have so much fun with it. And I think Jackie Chan has even referred to that as one of his favorite fight scenes to film.
Yeah.
Right, and then the other one that I think shows another kind of dimension to martial arts fighting would be Jet Li and Donnie Yen in Hero,
Oof.
right? Which is a complete departure from the classic kung fu and the more grounded Jackie Chan Benny fight in Wheels on Meals. Then you got Donnie Yen and Jet Li staring each other down in the rain, and then they close their eyes, and it becomes this artistic, beautiful, grand, epic fight that utilizes some wire work, but still looks powerful and elegant. And now you put those three fights against each other, and then you present them to someone who doesn't know anything about martial arts movies and say, tell me that these three fights are exactly the same, and they'll say, you're right, they're not the same, it's completely different. And all of them to me are fights that kind of stand out as ones to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no doubt. I mean, what I love is and this is something that me and Richard always talk about, is we say one of the things that a good fight scene should do, in whether it's in a movie or a TV show, is it should kind of tell you a bit of a story about who these two characters are. And it should also kind of tell you a bit about the plot of the movie as well, and the kind of message that the director is trying to get across and the writers are trying to get across. So for me, a good fight scene is just as important as a good piece of dialogue for doing that. And you should be able to see what is going on, and from the three choices that you made, you definitely as diverse as they are, it shows you how skillful they were at not only putting on a great spectacle, but telling you a story as well and getting you sucked into the story as a viewer. So yeah, for sure, man, great choice, man.
Okay.
Rich, I'm cheating, bro. I can't answer this question, dude.
Are you serious?
There's about 50 in my head right now, and I'm like, no, but I want but this one is good. No, I can't look. I can probably, I mean, off the top of my head, all the ones Jeff has already said are great. So, they all stand out to me. The scene from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon with Michelle Yeoh and Zhang Shi. That confrontation is incredible. And again, it tells you everything you need to know about the two characters that they are. Oh God, and a modern one, Donnie Yen and Colin Chu are at the end of
Flashpoint.
Flashpoint. Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
You know,
Jesus.
Yeah.
intense as hell. Throws in all kinds of different styles. And again, tells you exactly what you need to know about who these two characters are and what you know they're about. And it's just incredible to see as well the way that fight scene was choreographed.
Yeah,
But yeah,
let me jump into that real quick.
yeah.
Uh, if all goes well, I will be hopefully talking to one of the choreographers for Flashpoint.
Oh my God.
Sweet.
Yo, Lord. My heart just skipped a beat.
Well, yeah, definitely. We'll keep an eye out for that for sure, man, because that would be fascinating to know. Because I mean, I've got the Blu-ray and I watch the Blu-ray all the time. You know, I love that movie and I love the choreography in it as well. So
yeah, because then he went on to work with Donnie again for Special ID. So
yes,
yeah. Okay. Okay, I've got two. I mean, like once again, the choices that you guys have made. Like, listen, we haven't even finished the podcast yet, but Jeff, you need to come back on because we need to talk some more about this.
I would love to.
Okay, so for my first choice, I would choose. It's more recent, but I like the end fight for Ip Man, the first one, where he's fighting. You know, where he's fighting a general, and basically the general keeps him cheating. And then it gets to that point where, you know, where Donnie just starts just blasting him up. And it keeps on intercutting of him using the mukjong. And you know, and basically, you know, and like you were saying, is that the whole thing is that, you know, you got people that would say, well, listen, it's just people on screen fighting. And it's the same thing. I'm going to tell you a story about my first ever Wing Chun lesson that I went to. I went into the dojo. I walked straight over the mats in my fucking shoes. Yeah. And this is stupid of me because it's not like I hadn't done martial arts before, but I was in my late teens, early 20s. I was even more cocky than usual, and walked straight over to the mukjong and just started tapping it. And the teacher called me over. His name's called Michael, and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "You said hello. Fair enough. That's very, very polite. Hello back. Blah 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 blah. But if you were to invite me into your house, and, you know, after saying hello, and I just walk into your kitchen, you know, and I just go and put my hands in your fridge or into your mum's cooking pot and start taking stew out of the thing without asking permission, what would you say?" And I was like, "Well, that wouldn't be nice." And he said, "Exactly. That thing that you just touched now, there are people that have been training here for 3 years that haven't touched that. So how dare you come in here and touch that?" Listen, I felt about 3 inches tall. I could. So, and obviously, like, you know, like, and you see people using it and you still don't understand what it's used for until you start learning Wing Chun or until you see somebody really, really break it down. And that scene where, you know, where the general's trying to hit him with this move or hit him with that move, and you know, and Donnie's countering with it, and then it's intercutting with him training on the mukjong, and you're like, Jesus Christ, that's exactly what it's for. So it just shows you the amount of preparation that you need to go through, which a lot of people always also seem to forget when they watch kung fu films. You know, some people just think they can watch 100 kung fu films, and if you watch it enough, then you kind of know how to do kung fu. No, there's blood, sweat, and tears, and just repetition that you have to do continuously. It's not about montages, you know. And so yes. So that's one scene. And then another fight scene would be anything from Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee, which I think is such an undersold film.
Absolutely,
and I think you're really, really underrated. And I think people always go towards The Crow because that was his last film, and just because I think that Rapid Fire just isn't really on like general release anymore. But I like the fact, although we've seen like great mixed martial arts on screen. So for example, like when you see Jackie versus Benny, it's not a traditional martial arts fight, but there's obviously forms of kicking and punching. And then obviously when you watch something like a Flashpoint with Donnie versus Colin Chu at the end, it essentially is a mixed martial arts fight because there's bits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, Western boxing and so forth. But the first time I saw Rapid Fire, it's his movements. Like you can see, he flows from a Muay Thai stance straight into Wing Chun and then straight into Western boxing. But the flow of it is just beautiful. And And it's only when I went back and watched it years later, and I was like, this guy genuinely knew what he was doing. And and people always say that he was never as good as his father and everything. And I think that shouldn't even be brought into the equation. He was definitely a man of his own skill. And I think if he was still around now, he definitely would have been one of the best people on screen. But there's also a certain elegance that he has when he's fighting, and it shows his character, because throughout the whole film, he keeps on saying that he doesn't like to fight and he's a pacifist, even though he has all of this specific skill set, so to speak. And there's a bit where he gets into a certain rhythm, and when you watch the films, whenever he gets into a certain rhythm, there's a glint in his eye, and there's something that he does where he rolls his shoulders back, and it's just like, yeah, someone's gonna pay for this. But that fight scene, just because, me personally, that's probably one of the only times from back then that you see a true mix of martial arts, like from one style to another. Not like, like you said, like where you see kung fu where it's, animal styles here, animal styles there. He's doing general Jeet Kune Do from Thai boxing straight into Wing Chun, straight into Western boxing, and a little bit of acrobatics here and there. Yeah. So those are the two fights that I would choose. So yeah, that's my choice.
Nice,
man. Cool. Yeah. Well, Jeff, I mean, unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but it's been awesome to have you, man. But before you go, one question I did want to ask you. You've had a lot of guests on your show quite recently, some really fantastic guests. I mean, I've listened to recently, the Amy Johnson episode, which I thought was fantastic. Listening to Louis Tan as well was great, and sort of hearing his story and how he's, so it feels like he's so close to kind of hitting the big time, really. Is there anybody that you would really, really love to interview that you haven't interviewed as yet?
Finn Jones.
Why'd you have to bring the whole thing down? We were doing so well, man. No, and listen, I don't like disparaging Finn Jones. He's a fine actor. He's totally. It's absolutely nothing against him, but that choice for Iron Fist was just not right, and everybody knows it except Marvel.
And Finn Jones. Yeah, and Finn Jones.
Listen, we ourselves have spent plenty of time kicking Iron Fist, so we'll leave that to the side for now.
Yeah, I know. All right, so yes, I've been lucky with my guests, and it's been great talking to some of the movers and shakers in the industry. Some guys that'll be breaking it big soon. Some guys who broke it big a long time ago and are still kind of in the scene, which is always nice. As long as these guys are still getting their craft out there and putting their voice in the industry, I think for us fans, right? So hopefully they keep doing their thing. Now, my dream guest, if I could have any one person on my show, it would be Bruce Lee. I just to be able to tap into the psychology of that genius would be, eye-opening. I'm sure I could have him on for just 10 minutes and be 100 times wiser and completely satisfied with whatever we could talk about. Now, obviously that's not possible, but if there was somebody that was around now that I would like to, it would be Jet Li. Jet Li's one of those guys that when I discovered him, I was like, where have you been all my life? I want to know his whole story and all of the things that he brings to film and to his ambassadorship of martial arts and China. And Gong Shodao just came out, that short film that he made with Jack Ma, which I'll have to admit was a little strange, but
it was.
at least they're still doing something, and it was nice to see him back on screen. But so those would be the two I would go to.
Yeah, cool, man. Awesome choices. Well, Jeff, thank you so much, man, for making the time to join us here. As we said at the top of the show, we're genuinely fans of what you're doing. So yeah, please keep doing what you're doing, man. It's
awesome.
I mean, we need, you know, we need more voices like you out there that are going to cheerlead for martial arts now and in the future, you know, and people like you who will celebrate the past, but will also help, you know, spread the word for new artists and new performers who are trying to break through. So, you know, from both of us, man, thank you so much.
Oh, guys,
Yeah.
thank you so much, and it's been amazing getting to finally talk with you guys. And again, Mutual Admiration Society here. Obviously, I'm fans of you guys, and I love the voice that you bring to podcasting and to pop culture, and now to kung fu. You know, now that that we've made this connection, let's do it more often so that we can just kind of geek out about kung fu and just have some fun, man.
Oh, no
Yeah,
doubt, no
definitely.
doubt, man,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
definitely. It's gonna happen 2018, definitely. So,
Awesome.
You'll be back,
Thank
I'm
you guys
sure.
so
Like,
much.
no problem at all, man. I don't think Rich would ever forgive me if this was a one and done. So no, we got to do this again, bro. We will. But before you go, dude, could you just let everybody know where they can go and find Kung Fu Drive-In online?
Yeah. Kung Fu Drive-In podcast. I'm available on all of the podcatchers: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, whatever you use to get your podcast. You can find me there. I am on Instagram, Kung Fu Drive-In podcast, on Twitter at Kung Fu Drive-In. There's a Facebook page too. I have a website which I have not updated, so I'm not going to give that to you guys. But follow me on Twitter. I'm active there. Follow me on Instagram. I'm very active there. I jaw with Wulong Talks there all the time. So um, if you need to catch us, come catch us there, and I would love to hear from anybody that likes to celebrate kung fu movies and the entire genre.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Let's bring the whole world together. That's what we're aiming to do around here. Let's bring the whole damn world together. All right. Well, thanks a lot, man. And listeners, thank you very much for joining us today. We really hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. As I said, you know, personally for us, this has been a hell of a lot of fun today to have this conversation with Jeff. Make sure you stay tuned towards the end of the podcast as well. You'll get some information on how to subscribe and how to follow us. Okay. Well, it's a good night from all of us. And we'll see you again soon. Take care and peace.